Throughout history, in the darkest corners of our collective memory, whispers of their existence have echoed through generations. Women, feared and revered, branded with the mark of the unknown, witches. They have been painted as sinister figures, shrouded in a veil of myth and superstition. But what if everything we thought we knew about witches was wrong? What if their story, much like the natural world, is far more complex and nuanced than the fairy tales would have us believe? Join us now as we journey into the shadows to uncover the truth about witches. For centuries, the term witch has been used to ostracize and demonize women who dared to be different. These women, often misunderstood and feared, were labeled as witches simply because they did not conform to the societal norms of their time. They were the outliers, the ones who chose a path less traveled, and for that, they paid a heavy price. Those who challenged societal norms, who possessed knowledge beyond the accepted bounds, who sought solace in the natural world. These were the women branded as witches. They were the herbalists, the midwives, the wise women who held the secrets of nature and healing. Their practices, though beneficial, were often seen as a threat to the established order. Their wisdom, often rooted in herbal medicine and ancient spiritual practices, was misconstrued as dangerous sorcery. The knowledge they possessed was passed down through generations, a lineage of wisdom that was both revered and feared. They understood the healing properties of plants, the cycles of the moon, and the rhythms of the earth. Yet this deep connection to the natural world was often their undoing. Their connection to nature, a source of strength and solace, was twisted into a pact with the devil. The very qualities that made them unique and valuable were used against them. They were portrayed as consorts of evil, their practices as dark and malevolent. This narrative served to isolate them further, to turn communities against them, and to justify their persecution. But in reality, these women were often healers, midwives and wise women, their knowledge passed down through generations. They were the ones who brought new life into the world, who eased the suffering of the sick, and who provided comfort in times of need. Their skills were invaluable, yet they were often met with suspicion and fear. They were the keepers of ancient traditions, the guardians of forgotten lore. Their knowledge was a precious resource, a link to a time when humanity lived in harmony with the natural world. They taught the younger generations, ensuring that this wisdom would not be lost. They preserved the old ways, even in the face of relentless persecution. Their story is not one of evil, but of resilience, of courage, and of a deep connection to the natural world. These women stood tall in the face of adversity, their spirits unbroken. They were the embodiment of strength and perseverance, their legacy a testament to the enduring power of knowledge in the human spirit. Their history, though marred by misunderstanding and fear, is a story of triumph over ignorance and oppression. The Salem Witch Trials stand as a chilling reminder of the dangers of ignorance and fear. This dark chapter in American history is often cited as a powerful example of how hysteria can grip a community, leading to devastating consequences. The trials have been the subject of countless books, plays, and films, each attempting to capture the sheer madness that unfolded in Salem, Massachusetts, over 3 centuries ago. In 1692, in a small Massachusetts community, a group of young girls began to exhibit strange behavior. These behaviors included fits, convulsions, and inexplicable outbursts, which baffled the local townspeople and authorities. The girls' actions were initially dismissed as mere childish antics, but as the episodes grew more frequent and severe, fear began to spread. The puritanical society of the time was quick to seek a supernatural explanation, and the idea of witchcraft took hold. Their fits and hallucinations attributed to witchcraft ignited a firestorm of accusations that would tear the community apart. The initial accusations were directed at marginalized members of society, those who were different, outspoken, or simply unfortunate. As the hysteria grew, so did the list of the accused. Neighbors turned against neighbors, and families were torn apart by suspicion and fear. The judicial system, rather than acting as a check on this madness, became a tool for perpetuating it. Over 200 people were accused of witchcraft, their lives upended by paranoia and suspicion. The trials were marked by a lack of proper legal procedures, with spectral evidence, testimony based on dreams and visions, being accepted in court. This led to a series of unfair trials where the accused had little chance of defending themselves. The atmosphere in Salem was one of fear and mistrust, with even the slightest deviation from social norms being enough to warrant suspicion. 20 innocent souls were executed, their only crime being different, misunderstood, or simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. The methods of execution were brutal, with most of the condemned being hanged. The youngest of the accused was only 4 years old, while the oldest was in their 70s. The community's collective fear and the authorities' willingness to act on unsubstantiated claims led to these tragic deaths. The executions were public spectacles, intended to serve as a warning to others, but they only deepened the community's trauma. The Salem Witch Trials serve as a stark warning from history, a reminder of the fragility of reason in the face of fear. They highlight the dangers of allowing hysteria to override rational thought and the importance of due process and justice. Today, Salem stands as a symbol of the perils of mass hysteria and the need for vigilance against such occurrences. The trials are a testament to the human capacity for both cruelty and redemption, as the community eventually sought to make amends for the wrongs committed during this dark period. The lessons of Salem are as relevant today as they were over 300 years ago, urging us to remain vigilant against the forces of ignorance and fear. Chapter 3. The Power of Fear, Witch Hunts and the Suppression of Women. The accusation of witchcraft became a powerful tool, wielded by those in power to control and silence women. In medieval Europe, the fear of witches was pervasive, and it was often used as a pretext to target women who did not conform to societal norms. These women were often healers, midwives, or simply those who lived alone and were seen as different. The mere suspicion of witchcraft could lead to a woman being dragged before a court, where she would face harsh and often fatal consequences. Women who dared to challenge the patriarchal order, who spoke out against injustices, or who simply lived independently, were particularly vulnerable. The patriarchal society of the time viewed these women as threats to the established order. Their defiance was seen as a challenge to male authority, and the accusation of witchcraft was a convenient way to eliminate that threat. These women were often subjected to brutal interrogations and forced confessions, which were then used to justify their execution. Women who possessed independent wealth or influence were often targeted. Wealthy widows, women who inherited property, or those who had a significant say in their communities were seen as particularly dangerous. Their financial independence and social influence made them targets for those who sought to control resources and power. By accusing these women of witchcraft, their accusers could seize their property and diminish their influence, thereby reinforcing the patriarchal structure. These accusations, fueled by fear and misogyny, could destroy reputations, tear families apart, and even lead to death. The ripple effects of a witchcraft accusation were profound. Families of the accused were often ostracized, losing their social standing and means of livelihood. The fear of being associated with a so-called witch led to widespread paranoia and mistrust within communities. Innocent women were condemned based on flimsy evidence, and the mere accusation was enough to ruin lives, and even lead to death. The methods of execution were often gruesome, designed to serve as a warning to others. Women were burned at the stake, hanged, or subjected to other forms of public execution. These acts of violence were not just about punishing the accused, but also about instilling fear in the wider population. The message was clear. Any woman who stepped out of line could face the same fate. Yet, even in the face of such persecution, women found ways to resist. They formed secret societies where they could support each other and share knowledge. These clandestine groups were a source of strength and solidarity. Women would gather in hidden places away from prying eyes to discuss their experiences and plan their resistance. These meetings were dangerous, but they were also a lifeline for those who refused to be silenced, shared their knowledge in hushed whispers, passing down herbal remedies, healing practices, and other forms of traditional wisdom. This knowledge was often seen as dangerous by the authorities, who feared the power it gave to women. By keeping these traditions alive, women were able to maintain a sense of identity and autonomy even in the face of relentless persecution, and kept their traditions alive. The practice of herbal medicine, the reading of tarot cards, and other forms of folk wisdom were ways for women to assert their independence and resist the forces that sought to suppress them. These traditions were passed down through generations, ensuring that the knowledge and skills of these women would not be lost. Their story is a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dare to defy the odds. The legacy of these women lives on in the resilience and strength of modern women who continue to fight for their rights and freedoms. By remembering and honoring the struggles of the past, we can draw inspiration and courage for the battles that lie ahead. The story of the witch hunts is not just a tale of persecution, it is also a story of resistance, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. Chapter 4. The Legacy of Witches, Modern-Day Magic and Empowerment. Today, the word witch is being reclaimed, no longer a term of fear but a badge of honor. Modern-day witches and spiritual women are embracing their heritage, drawing inspiration from the strength and resilience of their ancestors. They are healers, artists, activists, and seekers of truth, using their voices to challenge injustice and promote healing. They find power in their connection to nature, in ancient rituals, and in the wisdom passed down through generations. The legacy of witches is not one of darkness and fear, but of empowerment, self-discovery, and a deep reverence for the natural world. Outro: The truth will set you free. The story of witches is a story of humanity, of our capacity for both great love and unimaginable cruelty. It is a story that challenges us to confront our fears, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the power of the unknown. Did you know that there are more practicing witches in the United States today than ever before? Their story is far from over. Subscribe now to join us as we continue to explore the fascinating and ever-evolving world of witchcraft.